How you doing, everybody? Bill Hoy here. YouTube channel. What in the world's going on? I'm gonna start getting into something that actually what really started me on my journey towards enlightenment. I was all my life I suffered from addiction problems. They came to a head I'd say in my late 30s, early 30s, late 30s. And for many years I bounced in and out of the recovery groups there, AA, NA, stuff like that. I went to a couple so-called treatment centers, and finally in 2012 I started seeing a lot of inconsistencies. Finally in 2012 I went to a treatment center and I got completely involved in the AA program, went through all the steps, went all the way with the sponsor, did the whole nine, and I stayed what is called sober for about a year and a half. I started seeing things that just really didn't gel with me, a lot of inconsistencies, and I started researching things and I started learning the truth. And I want to share that with people, and I know you know you out there, you're suffering, especially these opiate users. These opiate users, this is a real bad situation we're all in. I mean, these the opiate use here in this country. I live in the United States. The opiate use in this country is it's off the chain, man. I mean, let's see. The United States makes up 5% of the world's population, yet consumes 80% of the world's prescription opiates. There you go. There you have it. It's insane. It's a pandemic. I mean, right now this is March 25th, 2020, and currently there's a coronavirus they're calling a pandemic, but the real I mean, the coronavirus is a problem, but these opiate overdoses, it's an absolute pandemic. Has been for a long time. I think something like 70,000 drug overdoses in 2017. I think like 50-something thousand of them were opiate overdoses. And if you're out there and you're suffering with these addictions, opiates and whatever other drug, and we're going to talk about all addictions, because here in the United States especially, the world for this matter, but here in the United States especially, addiction is not an aberration from the norm. It is the norm. Everything, our whole entire societal philosophy is based on addiction. The whole industrialized, militarized society, the whole industrial revolution, everything. The whole thing, it's all tied together. It's all tied together. And you who are suffering, I feel for you, and I worked in a treatment center as well, and started talking to a lot of people about a lot of things. I was thinking about something yesterday. I should have wrote it down. I really had something good. But I've worked in treatment centers, and talking to people about the research that I've looked over, and of course I was terminated from treatment center. I was not very well liked, and I could get into all that, and get into all that. But I just want to start talking to you. If you're suffering from, I really don't know what to call it, because you look at the TV programs and you'll see they say addiction, and addiction encompasses so many things. In fact, one of the most common addictions is interpersonal and love addictions. What we call, especially here in this country, or in our culture, what we call love is actually really an addiction. People don't know what true love is. True love is love of self, love of freedom, love of morality, love of nature. Those are true loves. And we have all these false loves that we get sucked into and we get indoctrinated into as children. And I also want to cover the fact that anyone how can I best say this, where our addictions are formed in us during our formative years as children, mainly from age 4 to age 8. Those addictions are fomented in us. Many parents, they don't realize. They think, well, I never taught my kid to smoke crack or shoot heroin, or I never, taught my kid to drink and stuff like that. They don't understand that that's, the object is not really, it's not about the object of compulsion. It's about the individual and the behavior. And addiction is learned behavior. And parents basically socialize their children into addiction, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're smoking crack with them or shooting heroin with them or something like that. And I'm going to get into that. I'm going to talk about that. There's so much to talk about. This issue I could talk about forever. And I was working on this. For a while. And, I got involved in treatment centers, and I realized, what the treatment business is really all about. And it's not good. I'm not saying that there aren't some good people in it, but the system itself is basically designed like the whole medical system, which of course, once again, the medical system has good aspects of it, but it has horrible aspects of it. And the horrible aspect of it is the for-profit business style. And these treatment centers really, in a sense, I'm going to cover this, really don't necessarily systematically want people to get better, because when people get better, well, that's bad for business. We need sick people. We need people with problems and stuff like, psychological problems and emotional problems and stuff like that. And that's what makes business. And I'm going to talk about that stuff. And if you're suffering, sit down and listen to this, man, and try to listen with an open mind, and just try to heal. We got to try to heal ourselves, man, because this is a very serious situation we're in. Look at my videos. I'm pretty sure I said the name of my YouTube channel. What in the world is what in the world is going on? And I don't even know the name of my channel. Like I said, I think we can all work. I think everyone has free will. We all have free will, and everything starts with choice. Everything starts with choice. Every time somebody chooses, and I'm going to get into this, the whole relapse philosophy and all that stuff. Every time somebody relapses, they make a choice. Let's just say a case with a drink, many times what happens is how it's characterized in these treatment centers and in these 12-step kind of, the 12-step kind of ideology, which, let me tell you something about these 12-step programs. The whole underlying view of powerlessness is, I reject that very, very adamantly. No human being is powerless. No human being is powerless. The only time you're powerless over using a drug would be in a sense if you were bound and gagged, tied up, couldn't move, and then somebody forced the drug inside of you. Every time someone picks up a drug or a drink, it's a choice. They're making a choice each time. And let's take the individual, how usually they say, well, they don't... See, it's very simplistic. These treatment centers and the 12-step programs are a little bit too simplistic when they describe what would be a relapse. For example, they would say, usually they'll say, oh, he picked up a drink and then he ended up, in a car crash and in jail. And that's not giving you all the facts. The truth is, people basically, one drink equals total destruction is the whole ideology. And what people fail to realize is that every time somebody, let's look at an example, every time, somebody decides to pick up a drink, they make a choice. And so let's take the individual, let's say he had, I don't know, a couple years, what do they call sober, we'll talk about that as well. And he chooses to go into a bar. He goes into a bar. He chooses to go into that bar. Makes a choice to go into that bar and sit there and, I'm just going to have a soda or something like that. He chooses to go into that bar. And then he says, you know what, I'm just going to have one drink. He chooses to make that drink. And then he has another drink. He chooses to make that drink. That's a choice. And then, of course, he's starting to get intoxicated. But then, once again, even when someone's getting intoxicated, now their ability to make good, sound judgment choices does decrease, but still, it's a choice nonetheless. So then he makes all those were choices, all those drinks he had, and then he made, he leaves the bar, and then he makes a choice to get into his car, and then he makes a choice to turn the ignition and drive the car. He made a choice. All those are choices. So it's very important to cover that. He was never powerless in any situation. You're always powerful. You're always powerful. But the key is we got to get to the underlying psychological factors and the underlying, the things that happen to us in our formative years. I did that when I finally realized, what my problems were. And one good researcher in addiction, his name is Dr. Stanton Peele. There's also, you can look up the works of Thomas Szasz. There's, I think it's Jeffrey Shailer. There's many others. There's, we'll get into them, there's Rebecca Tiger, Caroline Jean Acker. This is years ago. I started studying this years ago, and I tried to bring this to the world. I tried to bring this look up Lighton Torrance. I tried to bring this Charles Widnick, Alfred Linsmith, Bingham Dye. I tried to bring this research in truth to the mainstream, and I tried to bring it to the treatment center, and they laid the smackdown on me, and I tried to bring this truths to a local group in Ocean County, New Jersey, that claimed ostensibly that they were trying to help individuals suffering from addiction problems, and I introduced just a couple concepts of empathy to them, and I got my doors blown off. And we're going to go over that, and I'm going to call these people out. These people, are publicly known here in Ocean County. They, everything I'm going to say about them is all stuff they've said to hundreds of people, so I'm not going to be telling any secrets or anything like that. But we're going to get into all that. But I mean, really, this is not about taking anger out on people. I just want to help. I really want to just help people. This is what I really started. I really started off wanting to help people with addiction problems, and I started going deep down the rabbit hole with all the stuff that's going on in our world, and I got away from it. Not to mention also, I tried to bring this, stuff to the mainstream in society here and getting involved with certain programs, and I got my doors blown off, and I got the smackdown laid on me, and realized that it's really deep down in people's hearts, they really don't want people to get better. I really think that, and we're going to get into that as well. And for you suffering, listen to these videos and investigate into it. And I just want to be very clear. If you're in one of these recovery programs and things are going well for you, great. I'm never suggesting to anybody, not to do something that you feel is having success in your life. If you feel something's having success in your life, stick with it. All I'm saying is, we're not powerless. We're not, and it's just the truth. And you whatever's working for you, stick with it if you got something that's working for you. And I started studying this stuff about a year into my so-called recovery, so-called sobriety, and I didn't stray from my programs at all for at least 6 months. I was studying this stuff, so I didn't, I didn't just jump. I didn't just say, okay, I'm not powerless anymore. Oh, problem solved. No, problem not solved. I had to do a lot of deep introspection. And it's very, you got to get down to the root of what's really going on, and we're going to talk about that. And I'm running a little over time. Usually I only like to make these videos about 15 minutes, but I'm just going to say that, I really, it's not about, what a drug is doing to somebody. It's about what is it doing for somebody. That's the key, and we're going to talk about that. So hang in there, man, or woman, or whatever. Try to get informed. You got to get informed. That's the key. That's the key to the light. And I'm going to make some more videos on this, and we're going to start talking about this. All right.